could you have the roll call, please?
Can you repeat yourself?
I'm sorry?
Repeat yourself.
Just
Your
started.
camera
Oh,
wasn't
okay,
on.
all right. I'd like to call to order the Black Statue Groves Planning and Zoning Board LPA meeting for May 15th, 2014. Time right now is 7:05, and could we hear a roll call, please?
For the Planning and Zoning Board, Chairman Lip,
Here?
Vice Chair Crawford,
Present.
Board Member Corning,
Here.
Board Member Harris,
Here.
Board Member Joyce, not here. Alternate Member Close, not here. Alternate Member Guillaume, not here. For the Regtac Committee, Chair Harris,
Here.
Vice Chair Siciliano. Here. Board Member Nina Corning.
Here.
Board Member Kathy Fredo. Here. Council Liaison Tom Goldsman.
Here.
Jan, just for the record, we may want to reconvene the meeting again when we go to the joint. Because this part's only the P and Z board.
Okay, this one's going to be just being.
Just
Yeah,
P&Z
we're just gonna
board.
start out and get that
Yeah.
over with, and then we'll move into the workshop.
Yeah, and we'll do another roll call then.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve the agenda? Anyone?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, Robin Crawford moves to approve. Is there a second?
Sir.
Okay, Keith, all right, we've got it rolling now. So all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, same sign, those passes. Appointment of chair. Can I hear a motion or a
Nomination.
nomination? Here we go.
Go ahead.
Please. I'd like to nominate Chairman Lip to keep the chair.
Second.
Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, one more time. Appointment of a co-chair. I have a,
Recommend nomination for Robin Crawford to serve as vice chair.
Vice Chair Robin Crawford. Lawrence, would you second that?
Second.
Seconded by Lawrence. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that's out of the way. Any additions or corrections to the minutes of April 10th, 2014? Hearing none, can I hear a motion to approve the minutes of April 10th, 2014?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, Rob moves to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Keith. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. Moving on, there is no old business, no new business. We have one item under old business, the guns, firearms in range. Could you give us a background on this, Mr. Conley?
Yeah, this was the item that was tabled at your last meeting, and since that time, your direction was basically you wanted some input from the town attorney relative to his comments and his input regarding the ordinance. Jim Fleischman is here. He has we also have, and I think we provided to you, a copy of a memorandum from the town attorney giving his thoughts on the ordinance. I'll let Jim go ahead and summarize those if we can at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. There was some concern at the last P&Z meeting that the two state statutes that were referenced as the justification for the deletion of all reference to shooting gun ranges didn't really do that. And that really was the basis for the tabling motion on the part of the P&Z, and we took the motion and asked the town attorney to review the ordinance once again, and he essentially came to the conclusion that gun and shooting ranges can't be treated any differently commercial business. And that there are some severe penalties in the Florida statutes if local officials do treat gun ranges differently than other commercial businesses. So to be safe and based on the fact that the state legislature has essentially preempted regulating guns and shooting ranges on the part of local governments, taking that responsibility themselves. The town attorney feels that the previous legislation, as well as an attorney general's opinion and some court action that's going on related to this issue in both Palm Beach and Broward County, justify the proposed changes. So we really haven't made any changes from the ordinance as it was presented to P&Z last month. We, I guess, just come back with a stronger recommendation including the town's attorney's recommendation that the change is justified, and we recommend approval of the ordinance. As Mark said, staff was directed by town council to make these changes.
Yeah, let record show that Burns Guillaume is present. Thank you, Jim. Mark, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, Jim covered that very nicely. I would just say if we could get a vote up or down from the P&Z board tonight, that would be appreciated. We do have this scheduled our next P&Z town council meeting.
But basically, this is just the way that this has now filtered through. Is this is really regulating archery areas?
Yeah. Well, archery and gun ranges were both separately identified in the code. What we've done is just taken out all references to the gun and shooting ranges and left archery ranges in there because there's no state statutes that preempts towns regulating archery ranges.
Because the way that I've read all this is that if there's a rural residential neighborhood, which a whole bunch of things are prohibited, including commercial high, commercial low, commercial anything. And if somebody will set up a gun range there, they can't because there is no land use there or zoning that would permit a high use commercial establishment. Am I correct in that?
Yes. There's nothing that allows a commercial shooting range to go in a residential, in the AR district. If somebody wanted to come in with a private shooting range, I asked the attorney about what we could do with that, and to tell the truth, he said he wasn't really sure, and that we would have to specifically check the state statutes and our code if and when one comes in. I don't think we can make a blanket statement. We can make a blanket statement that as a commercial business, it is precluded from the AR district.
Well, then that opens up the thing of, because I've been to some private shooting ranges for skeet, things like that, which you had to be a member, or a guest of a member. Now, to me, that's a commercial operation. It's just that they've got like a country club. You can't open up a country club, in a private community. You need to have enough land because you're not zoned as a recreational facility.
Yeah. Well, essentially, what we're doing now is cleaning up our CL zoning district, and not necessarily specifically addressing that question in the AR district, because there's no reference to gun or shooting ranges being allowed in the AR district now, in the code. And certainly, if it came in as a commercial proposal, we would have a ready answer for that. If somebody wanted to come in and build a private range in his yard, Mike said that we would have to take a further look at that.
this answered that question, is that it could be private members only, but that's really a commercial operation.
Yes, yeah, well, I would think that we would look, staff would look in great detail at whether or not there was any commercial aspect to it.
Robin?
What about discharge, anybody know the rules on discharging firearms? AR?
No, I don't think we have any of those kind of rules at all.
So are we allowed to shoot a gun on your property?
Well, that changed last year with the, with some local legislation, because the limit in the past was 20 rounds then, now it's open season, essentially.
This doesn't affect that.
No, it doesn't affect this at all. Burns, did I see your hand go up?
We did not.
Okay, that was okay.
For Mr. Fleishman, since you're passing authority to the state, I was wondering if this had any effect on the commercial gun sale issue that's been up from time to time in the town?
Well, the reason, the primary reason why that particular business is an issue is because we have, for residential enterprises and home occupations, we have a regulation in there that says that you cannot have customers come to your residential enterprise or home occupation. And that's the issue with that particular gun operation, sales operation.
So there's nothing else in the ULDCs that really affect that, and this is, once you clean our ULDCs of everything relating to long arms or pistols, does that open a door, or does it, now you're backing into level?
No, I don't think so, because all we're doing is
I'm just curious, I just want to get that clear.
yeah, I don't think so. I mean, this is looking at a particular use that we have in our commercial low zoning district, which is gun or shooting range, and we're taking that out of the CL district, as well as any other sections in the code, such as special parking regulations, special conditions under which they could have operated under our current code.
Okay. Comments from the, Nina?
I did have a comment. I did call today, called the Florida Statues Research Department because of the differentiation between the firearms and anything that is actually, and it is correct that archery is not included in that. One of the things that I thought was strange is as we were taking it out and amending it, you took out the original wording, I don't know whether it was intentional, of indoor archery ranges. So you know, appropriately, because of the Florida statute saying now it is controlling firearms and meaning firearms and not archery, you have to take that out. However, you also took out indoor, which was referring to archery ranges. Was that?
Well, that may have been a mistake. Let me see. Yeah.
If I could ask a question, being that I was the one who brought this up in the first place. Essentially, you're removing it from the commercial possibility, so you're saying that you cannot allow it? Because that is not the intention. The intention was to
Yes, I know.
remove any. The way I'm hearing you, somebody who came tomorrow and said they wanted to put a shooting range in a commercial area of Loxahatchee Groves couldn't do it, because it's not going to be permitted, and now you're going to go through an entire rigmarole in which you're going to have to ask permission from the town to put in a gun range for something that you don't have in here at all, and the town doesn't have the right to say you can't have a gun range. That's the whole point.
Yeah, I
And
asked.
I read this, I read the Attorney General opinion and all that, and whereas you may have a situation with residential districts to just assume that our intention was to not allow people to have guns ranges. That's the exact opposite of what the intention of the council was, just so you know. We want to have the ability to have anybody have a gun range without the town being the one who regulates the guns. That is my understanding of the intent of the council. So to go in the other direction, which is what I'm hearing here, I think is just going to be counterproductive for y'all, because I'm pretty sure that the intent of the council will be not interfere in the situation. And to say it's not allowed, I think is a problem.
Well,
And I heard you say it's not allowed.
Well,
In answer to
well,
a
I was-
question, and that's my problem.
yeah, well, I was, the question that I thought I was asked was could a commercial gun operation go in the AR district? Well, we don't allow commercial
These
business.
are the allowed uses, including adult entertainment, and you don't have guns allowed.
But you don't have to, I think,
And before you guys go there, let me explain a piece of logic to you. If we're gonna go to the idea that by saying it's permitted as regulation, that's what y'all do with ag all day long. You try to regulate ag all the time when you have AGO opinions telling you not to. Our intention is not to do that again with this, and that's what I see. So I'm not gonna get involved in any farther, other than to say, if the end result tonight is to make it where it's not permitted to have in a commercial area, which is the thing I'm looking at, not gonna be able to have a gun range, then you did the wrong thing.
Okay, well, I asked, staff was directed to take out all references to gun and shooting ranges, which we did. And I mentioned to the attorney, there's a language underneath the permitted use table that says anything that's not listed above is not allowed in town.
No, that's not the intent.
Okay, yeah, I know that. And his response to that was that
Equally so relative to the residential. No one has said that that would be not allowed. That's not been addressed. But to just, you know, the intent was not to ban it, and you will get us all thrown off the council
No,
through this process.
okay.
Because that's what it's doing. And it's a backdoor regulation. I understand what you're saying, but you gotta figure out a different way to do it. And if the direction was to take it out, that doesn't work. I know it's not meant, but that's the result, and you just said so.
No.
Yes, let me tell you why. Because you said that since it's not in here as a permitted use in the ag residential area, that you can't do it. Now you're telling me somehow if it's not in here, that I can do it. But you're telling me if it's not on this list, I can't do it.
No.
So therefore, since it's not here, I can't do it, I'm regulating it, in fact, I'm banning it.
It says only in the CL district is there language that says if it's not listed above, you can't do it. Okay?
Right, so if it's not listed above, you can't do it. That's my point. We're not trying to say you can't do it, and that's the result. Therefore, it is not the proper thing to do.
I asked that same question of the town attorney, and his response was that a gun range is a retail business which is allowed in the CL. So we would allow it under it being
And you should say permitted.
a commercial business in the
And
CL.
how do you know that if you don't ask the town attorney? Because it's not written here, and it's not in the rules. That's completely backwards to me.
Well, is it?
Because how do I know, other than I've had this long conversation with you about it, and then we're going to refer to the town attorney in an unwritten, unpublished point? I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm just trying to say,
Well,
if I was just somebody off the street, and I came to do it, I'm running into it, and when we start dealing with the third party in the office who's looking in the book, it says right here, if it's not allowed, and you can't do it, you can't do it. Now, somebody's coming and saying, council, you passed this, which unpermitted people from being able to carry out their constitutional rights to have a gun range, and therefore you, Tom Goldsnake, need to pay $5,000 and you're off the council. So I'm not gonna vote for it in its current status, and we're gonna have an issue with it come Tuesday that needs to get fixed.
Okay. And I mean, I had the same question as you did. If it wasn't specifically listed
I
there.
think his answer was incorrect to you.
Okay.
fly to me. So, you know, I'm sorry to take up your time, but
I was about
it's-
ready to
it's-
gap with you.
I'm just gonna say, it's, the point being,
Yeah, no, I understand.
why do something if it's backwards of what we're trying to do?
Okay,
Lawrence?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one more question? Now, if we left gun ranges in there, but then struck all of the other changes that we have, are
I think
you
we
okay
should,
with
I
that?
think the point should be that we say that gun ranges are permitted and subject to the Florida statutes. And that directs people to the Florida statutes relative to guns. The same way when we talk about ag, we say bona fide ag is covered by Freedom to Farm Act, and on you go, and you deal with the state because the state has preempted it. Just like we can't talk about wildlife because the game department runs that, then they do that. We should stick with our bailiwick, and this is not it. But we can't, by doing it, backdoor and shut it out and say you can't do it.
Okay, so,
And that's what.
so if we just left shooting range indoor, as it currently is in the CL, but struck the parking requirements and conditional uses, all that kind of stuff.
Just put it as a
fine.
fund. If it's a permitted use with no local regulation whatsoever, and it refers to the Florida statutes, then I'm good with it. Until then, I consider it to be regulation one way or another, permitting or unpermitted.
Lawrence, Corning is recognized.
Yeah, the last whereas was the one pointing to sort of expunging it all from our code, right? And then I was trying to get where the conflict, is it when you go to subject to Article 80? Is that where you,
Yes.
is that where there's a conflict?
Well,
It's a question of both, I guess.
yeah, our initial task
It has need for.
was to strike everything in the code that had to do with shooting or gun ranges.
Yeah, right.
Which we did. That created a question in the CL district, because we have language in the CL district in the code that says anything that's not listed above is not allowed. So if we struck that, could somebody go to that section and say gun ranges aren't allowed because it's not listed?
Okay.
So councilman would like to have shooting range put back in there.
Listed.
So it's in the list and it can't be precluded by the language that says if it's not there, you can't do it.
I'll just make one comment, the way that I read the state law and the Attorney General's opinion, is her opinion was mostly directed at certain municipalities that were trying to control guns by not allowing them to be in commercial zones. And that is against the law. I think your approach that you took of just not referencing it is swinging the pendulum all the way the other direction, which again is an unintended consequence. And I think the way our ordinance is written right now is perfectly fine. And, but I think what Councilman Golson suggested is just put in the caveat of following, Florida statute, I don't know, it is 790.333 and 790.33. And that covers the town, just like we did with that.
Yeah, I totally understand. If you can look for a second at page 17 of the agenda package, there's some, the way it is now, in the code now, there are some specific conditions that archery and gun ranges have to meet. So, then we probably ought to still strike those because it's a conditional use. And then we also ought to strike the parking requirements and then just leave in the code the reference in the CL district that it's a permitted use and just leave it at that.
Yeah, and then reference to state laws as, what's the wording on that? State law as amended.
Yeah.
State law 77900.33 as amended.
So that's 80-040,
Yeah, 80-040.
strike the whole thing.
Well, no, just strike what's stricken through on that page.
So leave back in gun ranges, target areas for archery and gun ranges.
Well,
No, you can't regulate
Yeah.
the gun range at all. That's,
then,
just
yeah, 80-40, if we revise it, would relate just to archery
Okay.
ranges.
And I think that the other point that was made is over on page 3 of 6 is take the strike through away from the indoor.
Well, yeah, that was, I mean, that actually was shooting range indoor. That, the indoor related to the shooting range, not to the archery range.
You know, it's the,
So-
what is it?
So I guess we can-
Inner gun has an archery range in there, so.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, we could strike the indoor, I guess, if you want, because
I'll leave it at that.
because we're restricting,
Yep.
we're
Indoor or
limiting
outdoor.
it to an indoor range, okay. So just strike indoor.
You know?
I'm
And
sorry.
then keep shooting range, have it read shooting range, comma, archery range.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't quite finished when we took off on that before, but part of the problem that I had with Article 80 as we're leaving it for archery ranges is, well, of course, you're trying to regulate the, if you leave it from the gun range, you're regulating the noise, et cetera, parking lots. It is, the way it's written, it's really kind of silly to leave it there as a restriction for the archery range. It would need to be at minimum modified if you're leaving section 80.04 just archery ranges. It doesn't make sense the way it's written.
All right, I have a motion from the, we're done with comment from the board.
Well, move we table until next time and.
They're gonna hear it the next time. I think something
What's that?
along the lines of modify as directed.
I move that we modify as directed.
Is there a second to that?
Sure. I'll second.
Is that understood by?
That's approval with modified as.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only change that we're gonna make is on page 15 of 126, where a shooting range is, indoor is stricken. It's now gonna read shooting range with indoor stricken. So we're reading shooting range, comma, archery
Right.
range.
And then on page 5 of 6, 80.040, we're going to leave that as is.
I personally think that's fine.
Yeah.
Myself.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Robert Crawford seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, is that it, Mr.?
Yeah, on the old business.
So we'll adjourn this meeting and reconvene as a workshop with the Road Railways Committee.
Well, just as a point of order, Mr. Chair, I would say let's, we called it a joint meeting only because if you want to take any kind of direction to the council by virtue of motion or whatever, rather
So it's going to be a workshop. All right.
yeah, it's going to be kind of like a,
Joint meeting, all
yeah,
right.
joint meeting.
No problem. Changing hats? Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the joint meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board with the roadways.
All aboard.
Be right back. We have a roll call for this joint meeting now.
All right. For the P and Z Board, Chairman Lip,
Here.
Vice Chair Crawford,
Here.
Board Member Corning. Board Member Harris has moved to the Regtac side. Board Member Joyce, not here. Alternate Member Close, not here. Alternate Member Guillaume.
Present.
For the Regtac Committee, Chair Harris,
Present.
Vice Chair Siciliano,
Here.
Board Member Corning,
Here.
Board Member Strelo,
Yes.
and again, Council Liaison Tom Goldman.
Here.
I guess if I could start off, Mr.
Please,
Chair,
please do.
The reason for the joint meeting was at the last couple of roadway committee meetings, the thought was floated that the concept of roundabouts on Okeechobee had some merit and should probably not be dismissed. And as many of you are aware, and it's in your packet, we did actually have a roundabout study that was done by our former engineers, Calvin Giordano. So we provided that study to the committee at its last meeting. They discussed it, and after a lot of discussion, it was felt that possibly there should be this joint meeting. As you know, town council will be having a special meeting on the 20th, in which they're going to be discussing primarily road issues as it relates to how the town is going to address roads in the near future. So in light of everything that's going on with Okeechobee, you know, we have a lawsuit, we have the Minto development that's just north, we have town council looking at setting some policy as it relates to roadways. It was envisioned and thought that maybe this concept should be reviewed by both boards. And with that, I don't know if the chair of the committee wants to make any comments, you know, to the P&Z board, and how you want to get this kicked off, but that's just the background.
Thank you, Mark. In our last meeting of the roadway, equestrian trail, greenway advisory committee, it was brought up and visited the ideas of roundabouts. Member Siciliano brought up a presentation. I don't know if she's prepared to make any statements to open up conversation.
I can, sure.
Would you like to take a moment to share with?
Well, the idea of roundabouts was simply because I had gone to several of the town meetings and heard a lot of talk about traffic signals. And I just thought that, quite honestly, a roundabout is a much simpler, more, it's a better, I'm sorry, I think personally, and so does this study, that it's a better way to regulate traffic and to keep it flowing quietly and organized through our community. I think Okeechobee is going to be a problem for us as a town that's bisected by that road. And because it is not ours to manage or to really delegate what kind of signals go in there, I think first we need to figure out how we can get that little portion of road to belong to us. And then I think that roundabouts are a way to keep faster moving traffic out off of Okeechobee, move it to Southern. It's also, it would demarcate Loxahatchee Groves, that they can be made beautiful. They're not gonna go anywhere in hurricanes. They, you know, they're always going to work.
And I would like to complement that with something, if I may read a little blurb. I apologize, I'm not all that well this evening. I made up an old saying for somewhat outside the box strategy I've been pondering. The strategy is in its infancy. The saying goes something like this: if forced to swallow, participate in the selection of the diet. We all know eventually Okeechobee is going to be widened 4 lanes. Minto, Island Dunes, Geo Homes, Palm Beach State College. We're going to put a lot of cars on Okeechobee. Perhaps we can use that to our advantage. Perhaps we suggest to George Webb and the county commissioner for this district that the county has an obligation to maintain Okeechobee to serve the increase in traffic, or more especially to furnish a safe and non-congested traffic flow pattern with our town roads. Perhaps the town lobbies the county for the 4-laning of Okeechobee with traffic circles at B&F roads and equestrian trails on both sides. The improvements as soon as possible. The traffic light at D and Okeechobee is tabled. The town may elect to furnish those funds for land acquisition to support roundabouts. If a bailout is required, we then pursue the Royal Parkway design concept with a traffic light at D Road and equestrian trails on both sides. The Okeechobee Boulevard roundabout justification study indicates the roundabouts will assist traffic flow at C, D, and E road intersections. The report recognized an absence of proposed equestrian trails along Okeechobee. The report recommends roundabouts at B&F roads. In the town council minutes of August 3rd, 2009 meeting, item 10, Okeechobee roundabouts and signal meeting with Palm Beach County, there is a reference to George Webb indicating the numbers are somewhat off for roundabouts. He also said traffic in the county was down 8% due to the recession. The recession is over. And in consideration of the proposed increase in traffic caused by the aforementioned projects, let's give George Webb some new numbers. The minutes also indicates members of the then sitting council supported roundabouts. There are several policies in the town commons plan that supports roundabouts. Now, I heard recently Okeechobee may have received a state designation route number. I don't know if that's correct or not, but if it does that provide a window for state assistance in the matter? And that's what I have.
I'm sorry, what was that last part about the state?
I heard recently that Okeechobee Boulevard now is about to receive state designation route number. I believe I heard Mayor Browning say that in a comment at the last meeting. I may be wrong, but I was just looking for ways we could perhaps turn the hand and help participate in getting something the town receives instead of Palm Beach County just coming here and blowing through with 4 lanes and saying that's that. The minutes of that meeting, Councilman Gerald basically said that George Webb doesn't give a hoot's owl about Waxahachie. No, let's turn it on the other foot. Let's give them something to think about. And that's my thoughts.
Burns?
I'm a little confused, maybe I'm missing something here. My understanding is that Okeechobee Boulevard is a county road, correct? So whether or not we like the idea of a roundabout, how do we persuade them and is it within our power or to be able to convince them to do something that's their road?
Strategies in its infancy, we've got to figure out.
Somebody, it changes from county to state at a certain point. Do you know when that changes occurs? It's definitely state by the time it gets in West Palm.
Well, a lot of roads run concurrently, you know, because 441 is also State Road 80, and it's also US 98.
So is it joint owned?
Also State Road 7.
Yeah,
Can it get joined up?
it's also State Road.
When it's going north and south, it is,
Yeah.
when it turns, it changes. But it's also 98, it has all sorts of federal, state, and county.
So to try to put a number onto, and I know what I'm using, you know, my GPS, you know, I know I'm on Okeechobee, but it gives me like 4 county roads, 704.
On the paper just the other day.
But to go back to Bert's question.
Yeah.
Being that the county has primary responsibility for the road, unless they were to transfer that responsibility to us, or through the work of an interlocal agreement, we might be able to assume maintenance responsibilities and assume responsibility to do this work. You know, but it would more likely be on our dime, not theirs, or as some sort of a bigger project.
So you're saying that at some point we may convince.
You'd have to have the county's permission to do it, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. We would have to negotiate that with the county.
And that has occurred in county roads?
It occurred on A1A in Jupiter within the last year.
Well, it occurred also Forest Hill through Wellington, is Wellington's road now,
Yeah,
not.
exactly. That's another one even closer to home.
Neil?
Just for clarity, all our documents say that Okeechobee, that bisects us, is a collector road, not an arterial road, and that it is a county road, not a state road. Whether or not that will change in the future, I don't know. It's different when you get down to West Palm Beach than it is out here. In reference to A1A in Jupiter, they turned it over and kept control over the signal lights as a way of assuring that traffic was going to flow through there. So yes, it has been done where it's been turned over. One of my biggest questions for all of this was the width of what we have available and the average width for any of these roundabouts, knowing what it actually means for our town and the properties within it. That's been, I don't know whether we've gotten to any of those questions from the last meeting.
But what I've been told, and I'm fairly sure of, is that there's 130 feet of width in Okeechobee for a particular distance. And then there's also, as you add a point, it changes to 110. You can almost see it as you drive down.
I have a question as to why are we conceding 4 lanes through?
I didn't say that, but I would. I think that was merely.
Does our town planner concur with
That
that?
was just his idea. I don't think they take a policy position.
It's not on the county's 5-year road improvement plan.
So why should we soften our stand on 4 laning? Anytime you accommodate traffic will rise to the point where it chokes itself again. I mean, that's.
I think it was part of the premise of what he was saying, is that in order to get the funding to do this project, and I guess in doing, he was sort of giving in to the ultimate. Okay? Now, whether or not that's the policy decision made, and I wouldn't necessarily say that in any way, what Keith is suggesting is something that's a subplot of anything. I haven't heard that on the council at all. I only heard the support for the 2-lane of Okeechobee. But in the conversation relative to the traffic light for D Road, we've been talking about, well, what are we doing here, putting this in for now and not looking at the possible future. But the point being, if it's not on their 5-year plan, and who's going to pay for it? We certainly aren't.
Well, we certainly don't want to concede, we don't want to concede 4 lanes just to get a suitcase of cash to put in a roundabout.
Or maybe you do. That's, I think, what he's proposing.
Keith?
Okay, well, I have another question to ask the vice chair. Are we talking 90-degree entries or tangential entries, or what are we talking about?
You know, I'm not an
Since you-
engineer.
but you proposed this idea,
I'm sorry,
right?
I'm not an engineer. The proposal
Neither am
was
I.
simply to ease traffic and keep it flowing without encouraging all the cut-through traffic and more traffic for the Minto and anything going south. Because at the end of the day, we're also trying to allow for all of the farm vehicles, all of the equestrians, all of the pedestrians that are also going to be using Okeechobee and any of the letter roads. So in my efforts for the roundabout were not so much design, but in practicality, in order for us to achieve not just one thing with our equestrian trails, but 2 things by keeping the traffic on Okeechobee to our liking as it runs through the middle of the town of Waxahachie Groves. So I'm thinking 4 lanes that come in, the same 4 that arrive, and a big circle, and they can continue on, you know.
So you're telling.
How many roundabouts?
You're telling us that to relieve traffic, to reduce traffic, and to make it better for equestrians and whoever else, that going to 4 lanes with a roundabout is a better
I
solution?
don't know who said 4 lanes.
Yeah, she was
Saying
talking, she was,
possibly,
he's been saying 4 lanes.
Yeah.
Lawrence, you're congloming
I'm
all of,
not-
you're
I'm
congloming all of
confused.
your worst fears into one thing. He said 4 lanes. She's
Yeah.
only recommended that there be roundabouts on Okeechobee
Well, I assumed-
instead of, no, that they're independent conversations. That instead of a traffic light, she felt that they would be a better, and they would be a calming situation on the existing Okeechobee. Am I right, Joe?
Yes,
That's what you're
you're
referring
absolutely
to.
correct.
And you're talking about generally a circular type traffic circle, as they have in Wellington, with 4, one from the north, one from the south, one from the east, and one from the west. That's what you're talking about, with the center that you can't drive in.
Exactly.
And there's been no support whatsoever from the county for traffic lights, am I correct?
Not financial.
Not financial. So you've been wanting traffic lights, but you've got a consistent no on funding. And we have what, do we still have $1.3 million in it, or less,
And what?
in the bank?
No, it's more than $1.3 million.
More than $1.3 million?
We have 1.8 designated as capital improvements.
Okay, so, and is, the light wasn't in that, right?
No, the light is in
Oh,
there.
the light is in that, how much was that?
The light is at I think it's 300,000. It was reduced, it was originally a little higher, council reduced it.
But
In
that's all,
in a hybrid of Keith's suggestion, you don't have the traffic light,
Yeah.
and you use the money for these circles.
but would 300 pay for the light, or that's just our contribution?
Well, the estimate that we have from, because we had our consultants do a cost estimate, to do a string wire light, which the county has told us they will allow, it's $290,000. That includes the construction costs and the signal design.
And that would be for, would you do 2 of those? One at, you're saying the roundabouts are at E and F?
No, the roundabouts are at
B and F.
B and F.
B and F.
B and F.
So would you do 2 of those at B and F, 2 lights, if you didn't get your roundabouts, or?
No, the only light that's been approved right now by the town council is Okeechobee and D.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
If I could just give a little history on this, on the,
I just wanted to know.
light, George Webb agreed to use all of the counts from all the letter roads to justify or warrant, as the case may be, a light at D Road. So it's using all of the.
That is correct.
All of the letter roads to warrant a light at D Road. The roundabout discussion, dates back when I was on the town council and we did this study. Just from my point of sitting here tonight, I think the only logical way that we have of controlling Okeechobee is to take it over to the county. And go from there. Because then we have control over it. And just like the county is helping Wellington maintain Forest Hill Boulevard.
Would that require a purchase?
It would require money. In other words, we don't purchase it from it, just we agree to take over the maintenance of it. Whereas Acme Improvement District, I guess, has the wherewithal to maintain the roads in Wellington. We're slowly and eventually getting rid of the Loxahatchee Groves Water Control District maintenance of the roads. So it would be contracting it or building our own. Keith?
To respond to Lawrence, it would make nothing more happier to me than if we were able to get the Okeechobee turned over to the water district, make it a district road and turn it back to dirt. That's not gonna happen.
And rename it the Middle Roads.
Right. The long range plans of Palm Beach County suggest by 2030, it's going to be 4 lane. And my old saying, old Loxahatchee saying I made up, if you're gonna have to swallow it, you might as well participate in trying to make it palatable. And that was the whole purpose of bringing up an out-of-the-box strategy. Just let's find alternatives, and Chairman Lipp just brought up an idea that has been mentioned before, is let's see if we can get control of Okeechobee. Would be a plus. That way we can dictate our destiny.
I'd love to make a motion to that. I mean, you acquiesce to 4 lanes, and I don't know how you're bisecting the town.
Even
And you're
more.
doing exactly the opposite of what most towns and cities are doing.
Yeah, I don't think they were
They're
promoting to them for land.
We were not, that was not at all intent, quite the
They
opposite.
said it
It's
possibly
clearly,
could
they don't want
happen.
that.
Yeah.
There's,
Well, the advantage of owning the road is that if we put in, and somebody told me you can figure on $3 million per roundabout. If you go down to South County, get off on Lantana Road and go east to, what's the, something Ranch Road?
Hagen Ranch?
Hagen Ranch Road. Go south on Hagen Ranch Road and you'll come into roundabouts that would work in our community. Kelvin Giordano took me around in Weston and showed me what they had developed there. They're called mountable curbs. So the 40-foot horse trailers and the 40-foot semis, you know, can,
Low boy trailers.
yeah, can roll up on the curbs and not destroy anything. You know, but they're $3 million apiece, you know, so we're looking at $6 million, and that's probably a conservative estimate. So the only way that I can see that going forward is that if we control Okeechobee, and then we can keep it 2 lane, and leave the light gone, because I agree with you. You know, if the power's out,
Exactly.
let's all go as fast as we can. And so, Lawrence, if you'd like to make a motion,
What's the speed for a mountable?
I don't know, 20 miles an hour. You know, you don't want to land man thinking man.
Yeah. I just wonder.
You know,
When I did a little bit of research regarding, because she kept calling it traffic circles at first, and Mark kept calling it roundabouts, and when I looked it up, there is a difference. Traffic circles were the old style, apparently, and roundabouts are the new style that actually require you to lower your speed going in, and I think that is really what we're looking for versus plowing there with 45 miles an hour and accommodate a width that accommodates 45 miles an hour. I certainly have spoken many times about possibly being able to have control over Okeechobee. I think it's a fantastic idea. The 4-lane issue really wasn't discussed amongst us so much. I know that George Webb does not have $1 right now for the next 5 years in the budget for Okeechobee. That doesn't mean things will change. So, I mean, if we could go forward and figure out a way to propose that to the county, especially with all the development around us, that we have a little bit more control over our destiny.
so Wellington got their control of Forest Hill because they wanted to put that light in at that first street in from Southern Boulevard. County wouldn't allow it. And it's a blind curve, it's a very dangerous intersection, and they put the light in. And, you know, so that's why, but they had to take over the whole length of Forest Hill. So I think that's something where I'm sure that Mark can talk with Paul. And, you know, find out what Wellington did to get that done. But it really is a decision that the town council needs to make, because it's one of those sayings, is be careful what you wish for, you just want to get it. I sort of like the idea of going out there and putting some potholes in, that'll slow it down.
so the
And
whole
maybe
purpose,
maybe some ripples in the road, was that washboard?
I used to, it doesn't slow on B road, I can tell you that.
I used to suggest cobblestone layovers, but, you know.
so the whole purpose of this is to establish some kind of mechanism to divert traffic from Okeechobee Boulevard. And trying to figure out what mechanism to use, if it's a roundabout, if it's traffic light, but essentially you don't want traffic or increased traffic within Okeechobee Boulevard.
I think, I'd like to think of things in more of a positive tone. I think the Waxahachie Grove's character, the character of our community changed permanently when Middle Road went away. character of our community by maintaining the major road that goes through it, to stay within the character of our town. I was at a get-together the other night, where all the western communities, the western communities are essential. We've got 50,000 people in Wellington, we've got 52,000 people in the acreage. We've got 48,000 people in Royal Palm, and 3,000 people in Los Angeles. So I think that we certainly have a seat at the table, and we certainly can, go to the county and say, give us the gas tax money that you're currently picking up on Opie. We'll take over the maintenance of it, and we'll also build our roundabouts and keep it 2 lanes.
Sounds like a motion.
Yeah, I'll move that.
So
The person who made the motion, yeah, I like the sound of that.
I'll second this motion.
Yeah, how are we doing this with the joint meeting? Have we crossed motions here?
Well, I think you need to come to some kind of consensus
Okay.
before you.
How do we vote?
You get a
Well,
second,
it's a-
and then you get discussion.
And then we get discussion. So the motion, I guess, is basically to, that the joint committees would recommend to the town council that they seek to take up ownership and maintenance of Okeechobee with the goal of using roundabouts as a traffic calming and traffic management system. And to maintain Okeechobee in the character of the town of Los Angeles Groves.
Just one caveat with this, for those of us that work, that travels that road, it could become, I was in Connecticut for 7 years, and I'm used to a lot of roundabouts. And it can be an inconvenience traveling with it. And I understand it will cause people to think twice to come in, but those of us that live there have to travel back and forth. It is a convenience, so that, inconvenience, correct. So that's a caveat that I wanna put out there, is that, I guess the unintended consequence for those that live, the residents that do live in Waxahachie Grove.
To answer your statement, our justification study suggests it will actually ease up traffic flow on several of our roads entering Okeechobee, and could actually make it better for town folk traveling and to make it not desirable to use.
Well, traffic calming is supposed to be to make it more inconvenient, to discourage increased traffic.
We also have approved by town council, equestrian control crossings would be enough road, which would serve as a calmer, and that would have to be put in the mix of our roundabouts too, in this design. Or perhaps relocate them and we would be able to do so if we owned the maintenance and responsibility of Okeechobee.
Sometimes it's which level do you prefer? Sometimes you have to make some choices. When we have everybody pouring down on the Okeechobee and it gets wider and wider and you can't get out anymore, is that going to be a better choice?
Especially CB, it's really hard.
If you add lanes, all it does is add traffic. When you build the road, the traffic will come. It's a common saying. Mark can tell you that. Correct? True. Yeah. So there are choices to be made sometimes between, a little inconvenience, but that you can go and get something and keep a character of this town that we cherish. Now, in reference to getting some of the other parts that we enjoy, the greenways, the bicycles, golf carts, etc., there's some more discussions to be had around how that roundabout has to look like to function. But I think what we first need to figure out is, can we get Okeechobee? And that's the question in front of us right now. And then all the
I think that's correct.
devil in the details can be worked out later.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd like to mention a couple of details. The
The second one.
The Giordano report had mentioned that, that large pedestrian pathway on the south side might be impacted. And there might be some constriction because of the canals on the west side, say of E Road or B Road.
Well, see, I think that's where the advantage of the town taking over Okeechobee is that drainage canal, is right now is county. It's the county's drainage canal, it's not the water district's.
Giordano is referring to the north-south canals on E and B, and the east-west pavement strip on, is that right?
I don't think you should get bogged down in the detail, because the design of the road, if we were to get it, is something that is to be worked out by professionals, but this is a conceptual question. And I think that Dennis has framed it very well, because he keeps it on the very broad point of two things: get control of Okeechobee and then proceed with the roundabout. And I think that sticking with that concept, you can get broad agreement.
So would you also get control then of the county canal?
Sure. Yeah, the entire right of way. And then you can make drainage improvements, because, you know, that the county doesn't keep that canal very well maintained. It's usually full of cattails and other growth, far more so than the Loxahatchee canals. And, you know, it's, one of the roads that flooded the worst was that one, right in front of the firehouse, so. There's
And
things that
also
could be done.
in front of the Red Barn.
Yeah, and another one down
The
the
road delaminated. Okay, more discussion. Kathy,
Yes.
how does CERT feel about this?
Well.
Sir?
We could always set up base in the roundabout.
There you go. Little tents there, all ready to go for CERT, you know, have the CERT thing there. Well, you know, when you sort of let your mind go to, you know, what our community's all about, it sort of gives us an opportunity to make a statement at these places. You know, you figure you got probably at least half an acre, maybe an acre sitting in the middle of one of these things that could be well watered, and our landscape teams throughout the community could take turns maintaining these. So anyway, is there any further discussion on this matter? I'd like to have a roll call vote on this, if we could.
And Chair Lip?
Aye, yes, for the, and I vote is for the motion. Aye, yes.
Okay, Vice Chair Crawford?
Aye.
Board Member Corning?
Yes.
Board Member Harris? You're working on this side. Board Member Joyce not here, Close not here, alternate member Guillaume.
Aye.
The Regtac Committee, Chair Harris,
Aye.
Vice Chair Siciliano. Aye. Board Member Corning. Aye. Board Member Strelo.
Aye.
Any closing comments from staff? Closing comments from,
I have another road issue
okay.
that I would like to share briefly. At a recent town council meeting, a resident requested the town's consideration to pave North B Road. Council said it's not our road, goes through the district. The water district uses Ogen. At that same town council meeting, another resident of B Road suggested Ogen is old school. And Mr. Brian McNeil indicated there's polymer road stabilization products that are better and less costly than Ogen. He said to the town, do the research. So I did a cursory search and found some 5 products. Perhaps the town may make requests to the water district to research these and other products as an alternative to Ogen, as they may yield a longer lifespan at a less cost. There's 5 products I looked at, including dirt glue, environmental solution JS, environmental seal, poly wrap, polymer modified soil stabilization, and poly pavement. All those sound like very interesting materials that were suggesting lifespans longer than 10 years and suggesting less in cost. And perhaps council might consider going to the water district and asking them to take the time, the effort, and the cooperation to research these to perhaps give the town citizen a better product and not tap the wallet so heavily. That's what I have to offer.
Do a Google search on something called gorilla snot. Where did you find that one?
Well, it's not.
Gorilla snot. They're using it in the deserts of the Middle East, and it's a product that they put on the road, and it literally turns whatever dirt that they mix it in with, turns it into concrete.
There are several YouTube films
Yeah.
on these products that you can see the actual installation process, including parking lots.
Yeah, you know, they were probably some of the
The helicopter pads and such.
We had, if we're so worried about poisonous horse poop, we may be careful about all these, this polymer
Yeah.
stuff, or whatever.
Hydroplated polymers. Any other comments from either board? Yeah?
I've got some news on Monday, the governor signed the trails bill, so we officially have site control now to actually ask for grants currently. Because that's what I was told.
Thank you. I guess we stand adjourned at 8:10. I'm surprised I thought we'd be here for another 2 hours.
Always a pleasure.